All right, everyone, welcome to another episode of Trek Talk. I'm TechMan16.
And I'm washing my truck.
And I'm just standing.
That sounds so exciting. At least Kirk's doing something productive, Handy.
Well, I'm trying to get my dogs to stop talking to me, but, you know.
Right. Anywho, last week we had the return of Star Trek Lower Decks, the animated show. If you haven't watched it yet, check it out because I thought it was awesome. And Cook's here. How did you enjoy it, Cook?
I thought it was a lot of fun. Every episode. This one may have gone.
Your microphone sucks, by the way.
It's fair. I needed like 5 more minutes to get back to the restaurant.
Well, by all means, we'll just pause the show for you. Everybody, set a timer. 5 minutes. It's gonna be shit till then.
Right. Anyway, I'll go through a synopsis while Cook's fucking microphone gets back in order. The show starts out with a callback to the episode with Picard being trapped on one of the outposts and interrogated by Cardassians, where Mariner is being interrogated by our Cardassian soldier, and she effectively, by herself, just breaks through that interrogation through a bunch of Cardassian hallways, gets onto a Federation ship and blasts through the holding colony, and she goes to warp. And that's her form of leg day. And the holodeck. She gets interrupted by an Andorian who asks her, like, is this really your way of working out? It's like, yeah, what's yours? Yoga? She's like, psh, screw that. Anyways, since the end of the first season, in this particular episode, apparently Mariner and her mother, the captain, are working as a team, but they both hate it, and Mariner is given all the resources to do whatever she wants, which is a big kind of middle finger to Ransom, the first officer. And so they next scene is that they're in a second contact mission on Cook, do you remember what planet they were on? Because I don't.
No, I wasn't paying that much attention. I was still on my first cup of coffee.
Right. So yeah, I don't remember what it was, but it was very similar to a callback to one of those original series Star Trek planets where they just go in, and these people have some sort of quirk around them. These people have a quirk around numbers, so they're trying to choose a communication code to be part of the Federation. And you know, the leader of this colony, if you will, is having too hard a time choosing the right subspace frequency number because numbers are very important to these people. In the meantime, Mariner starts cleaning up their buildings because they're so filthy and dirty. And as she does so, she exposes a bunch of murals associated with an ancient civilization that used to live there. And at the same time, she cleaned this giant ball, which turned into an orb, which gave Ransom all these amazing powers like Gary Mitchell, which they also called back to Gary Mitchell. And so Ransom became this godlike figure, and he transformed the entire planet into like a Kirk fest. Basically, everybody's working out. He transforms all the fucking buildings into like gym equipment. and then his head gets detached from his body, and it grows ever so big, and it starts attacking the Cerritos. Because he's so pissed off that Mariner is given more control over away missions than he is, and he's the first officer. Which was just hilarious to begin with, because the head looks like just something out of the original series. Like it's a combination of Apollo and any other mythical being in the original series, where they have all these omnipotent powers. And so the going strategy to defeat him was give him more power by shooting phasers at him. So he grows exponentially stronger, and then the captain of the Cerritos, she's like, Ransom, why are you even doing this? And he's basically like, I'm pissed off at the fact that you give Marinor more autonomy than you do me, and I'm the first officer. And so she starts praising him, and all of a sudden, his head starts shrinking, and he's like, oh, give me more praise. So she tries to give him more praise, but eventually that backfires. And the way that Ransom loses his powers, Mariners just starts kicking him in the nuts. And his power effectively diminishes. And in true Gary Mitchell type fashion, they drop a boulder on him, and his powers go away forever. That was I thought it was a really fun episode. Lots of callbacks. Cook, now that your mic is hopefully better, what did you think of it?
I still can't get it off speakerphone. I thought it was a really good episode, even though you literally just gave away the entire episode, so no one even needs to bother watching it now. That opening.
Well, that's the whole point.
Yeah, congratulations, dickhead.
Spoiler warning.
Whatever.
That was a callback to Chain of Command. There were 4 lights. It was awesome opening. Hilarious, too. And the thing with Ransom kind of went on a little too long, but it was funny and hilarious. Although I really liked how clean the building was. And then when all that crap happened, I was like, now we know why those buildings are dirty.
Oh, there was also a side story with Tendi and I forget the cyborg's name.
Oh, yeah, I do too. We're terrible.
Anyways, we're terrible people for that. But in the end, he hates pears once again.
I didn't know I was supposed to be making notes.
Yeah, for all the people who like pears in the audience, anybody listening, you're all terrible people.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah, I mean, I
thought I was a terrible person anyways, but now it confirms it.
Well, you've been a terrible person since the beginning.
Yeah, so I don't know that the fact that I like pears really makes a difference at this point.
Yeah, no. So that was fun. God, it's so much more fun watching a Star Trek episode nowadays than it is watching like Discovery or Picard. So it was fun to watch. It was 30 minutes. It was like an hour show, again, compressed into 30 minutes. But lots of callbacks. Show makes fun of itself. It's lighthearted. It's very Star Trek-esque.
Yeah, one of these days I'll have to watch it.
I like Darius's comment. I think it's canon that everyone is terrible people.
Yeah.
That's very true. Actually, Darius, why don't you come up here? Don't be shy now. Okay, don't be shy.
I wanted to see if I could get R3 in here. He's having a bunch of issues with Dark.
I don't think he's being shy. I just think he doesn't want to talk to you.
That's true. That's fair. What's up, Darius?
Yeah, I hadn't been invited to do the speaking thing yet. It came through. Hi.
Hey.
Good morning.
So you obviously watched it. How'd you enjoy it?
Oh, it was great. Like you said, it's fun to have a lighthearted look at Star Trek and all of its awesome ridiculousness, and kind of get that like tongue in cheek. We're all part of the same joke. We all get the same joke, which Lower Decks is really, really, really good at.
It is. It really is. Discovery doesn't know it's ridiculous, and it tries to take itself so seriously.
It was too busy looking at itself in the mirror and crying. Wait, no, sorry, not crying. Just like mostly having eyes that might cry if we could just.
Is it being fat shamed? Do we need to alert the fucking civil liberties fucking unions?
Are you in the shower?
The ACFLU. Yeah, the ACLFU. I'm not sure which one it would be.
Yeah, whatever that is. ACLU. There you go.
I think that might be the ACLFU. Yeah, go ahead, Tech.
Kirk, you would have enjoyed the episode. I mean, the dude literally transformed all the buildings into like workout equipment, and everybody's like in the background just getting jacked. And they're like, "Oh no, he's
that sounds like the only episode worth watching."
And then what he did is he turned everybody's face into his own face, so it's his own face on everybody else's body, just lifting weights.
That's awesome.
That sounds really awesome. If I could give you guys my face so you could all be beautiful, I'd do it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I think when Tech was forgetting the planet's name earlier, he forgot that it was called like Florida. Maybe, I don't know for sure.
Hey man, you guys can hate all you want to with your fucking freezing your ass off wherever you are, dealing with communism. I'm just fine down here with the mosquitoes and the old people and
and the
stuff
COVID.
like that. Hey man, at least my state doesn't spontaneously combust every year.
Not wrong, man. Not wrong.
That's very true.
I'm just saying. People were worried about the earthquake. Jimmy had a cigarette, so now half of Beverly Hills is wiped out.
Actually, it's more like the power company is blowing itself up and causing all these fires. So unfortunately, it's
there's too many iPads. It's actually because of iPads.
That's right. That's right.
Too many iPads and iPhones. It's overstressing the system.
The Matrix can't handle it anymore.
Yeah, well, everybody's got to watch their TikToks. So, I mean, that's worth sacrificing some of California to spontaneously combust.
There's
gotta have our TikToks.
Man. Plenty of
Hey, man, I'm all about sacrificing all of California. What are you talking about?
Well, certainly some of it.
It's whatever.
Kind of around the middle by the coast, and then down south, those can go.
You mean like the part of California that makes money? Sure. All right.
Yeah, exactly.
Those aren't the places with the fires, by the way.
I know. I know. It's catch-22. The places that really should burn don't.
I would disagree, but those aren't the places that are burning down.
No, unfortunately not.
Hey man, those places that are on fire, is that with all the crazy people that shit in the street? No, it's with all the beautiful nature that people actually want to see.
Yeah, it's all the nice stuff that California has. That's what's burning.
Actually it's interesting how some people have rebuilt their homes, and there have been people that have interviewed where their homes have burned down like every year for the past 3 years. And they're
shit.
They're like, why do you keep living here? And they're like, it's where I'm from, man. It's where I'm gonna be.
Idiots. Oh my god. Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result.
And I think this is the part where we prove that we're canon and everyone's terrible people, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that I had real fun watching the episode. It was really, really well done, I believe. I think they need more badging.
I just want to throw this out there. You guys drop us a comment. Let us know where you're from, and we'll roast the fuck out of wherever you're from too.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
If you comment that you're from Ohio, you're screwed.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. From both sides of the country, the political spectrum.
Burn it because it's underwater.
And it's got those tropical storms, right?
Yeah, gets wiped out by a hurricane every year.
I'm sure there's a key island every year that sinks.
Yeah. Just gets eroded away. Give it another 100 years, Florida will be gone.
Anyways, back to Lower Decks for a bit. You know what the episode needed more is Badgie. Needed a little more Badgie. What do you think?
More
Cook?
cowbell?
No. You know who Badgie is?
No.
Darius?
I do. Badgie's that weird cyborg kid's sort of little avatar he makes to teach and train people. But of course, because holodeck, he gets half Moriarty, half a fistful of datas, and proceeds to dissect and dismember and get pretty fun. But I'm sure he'll be back, man. Badgie was a solid win.
I thought Badger got killed in the season finale.
I mean,
No,
come on, Star Trek.
Well, he got wiped or was it reset? But he still had that evil laugh or that evil look at the end of the episode. Cook muted himself.
Oh, thank God.
But yeah, Badgie is based on Clippy from Microsoft. except if Clippy wanted to kill you and dismember you.
Jeez.
Yeah, if Clippy
Oh my
actually
God.
had all of Microsoft's power to like turn himself into Moriarty / Data, right? Fistful of data.
Oh my God. Oh man, they should introduce Badgie into Star Trek Fleet Command. Now that would be awesome.
That's worth $100, right? For a quarter of his shards, just for $100 for a quarter of his shards, right? That'll be good.
No, they'll probably release him as a consumable, so you could just consume. It's like his power would be 50% chance of bloody death of your opponent in battle.
He'll be part of those new edibles that you can get from that special dispensary vendor in your station now.
That gets me high all the time from that dispensary. I get based on my level of the dispensary, I get high on mining. What do you get high on?
I took mine to 25 so that I could get high on all the things.
All the things. That includes meth?
I don't think they have one of those yet, although maybe in New Mexico.
Maybe in Mexico. I like that. All right, now that we're transitioning, so tell us where you're from. Go watch Lower Decks. It's awesome. And let's transition to this Server 34 nonsense that Handy put into place.
I didn't put nothing into place.
Well, you were claiming that you did.
No, I was joking. I mean, we started the server that started the conversation, but it was definitely the entire server that put it into place. I mean, if anything, I didn't really do anything at all. I think I answered some questions, but for the most part, was a lot of different people came together to kind of explain everything to everybody.
I have to get people on the show that were the ones that were most for it or most I don't know, because in this good. I'll bring Koma.
Koma was against it originally and came around. So I think his perspective would be very interesting to talk about.
Okay, so again, we're kind of in this little bubble. There's a lot more people involved in this, but from what I read, from what I've seen, is people are weirded out about TC rules, and then this 5-minute warning for OPL and zero node in deep space. And
well, the deep
again,
space wasn't discussed recently.
That's all that I've read about in the Server 34.
No. You're reading something wrong. On server, okay, so the ISO discussion, Inko and I started a new Discord server. So And what we did is we invited every single admiral and a handful of commodores from every single alliance that has a TC territory.
Okay.
And the point of that is to get everybody that has territory, get their perspective, input, and create rules or agreements based on all that input for as a whole for everybody that has a TC zone.
And what came of it?
Essentially, ISO, if you are able to mine it, you are not allowed to hit OPL ISO. It's been voted on and it passed, and it seems that almost everybody is totally willing to follow it. And yeah, and there's been quite a few alliances that, even back a few months ago, they were like, oh, this, or a month ago, they were like, oh, they tried it and they were like, I don't know, sounds stupid. And then they actually tried it with, making deals with certain alliances, and come to find out they really, really, really enjoy it. They're like, it's great. So, yeah.
This game has turned into Farmville. All right, Darius, were you part of this? I know, Cook, you were.
Dark didn't vote, I don't think, either way. Dark's kind of going to do its own thing. Dark got a dark. We like the idea of people leaving our ISO alone, and we like the idea of leaving people's ISO alone. Currently, we're not hitting ISO because we decided not to hit ISO. So that's kind of where we're at with it for now. It's an interesting experiment, but Dark's really not good or interested in trying to, tell people what to do. We want folks to just do their thing, including leaving us alone and vice versa. I don't not support the thing, but it's a novel idea. Let's see what happens. I think Cook might have a good perspective, and I think R3 would be a really good person to get into this conversation if you have him on down there, Tech.
Well, I don't know who this R3 is, but get him on here.
Red Eye.
Oh, Red Eye. Oh. Well, start spamming his fucking Discord. Let me see if I can find him. Cook, you want to give us your perspective?
Guess not.
I guess not.
I'll take a look for Red Eye for R3. Tech, give me a sec. I'll be RB.
All right, I just spammed him. All right, Koma, why don't you come up and tell me your opinion of this interesting topic.
That didn't sound very convincing, Tech.
Oh my God, I'm sorry. I don't understand why there is even a need for this, man. It's like we've been playing the same game for over 2 years, and again, people forget how to do shit. I'm at a loss, man.
You're just not there, buddy.
No, I'm not there. But when I was there, I still don't even understand it. I'm like, if you want your ships to not get blown up, don't put out your ships. For me, the concept seems really, really simple.
I respect your opinion. At some point, you'd have to be there. You'd have to have a couple meridians and put them out and use them all the time and see how much of a hassle it is.
Here's my thing. By the way, I was mining with a meridian yesterday. I filled it up 250k ISO and warped it home. Don't know, don't care, didn't matter to me. But if this whole argument that you've been talking about is about trolling, that you put out a meridian and you get blown up, your golden North Star, You put your
People
golden.
typically take it way too far. So it's not that like it's essentially this. For a lot of people, okay, 95% of people, they can respectfully probably hunt ISO OPL without pissing a bunch of people off, right? I would say most people are able to have, to do that without making everybody angry and without being a dick about it. Unfortunately, the 5% ruin it for everybody, and they just take it way too far, or go in GC and spout off, or blah 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 blah. But with all the things they've added to this game and all the time we have to spend on all this random stuff, it's like, I don't know about you, but I just don't have time to sit there and stare at my miners. I don't.
Okay,
Not if I'm going to play the game.
So if somebody hits you repeatedly and goes way too far, and we can name names, and I don't really care, but that is your version of trolling, right? That is what you can consider trolling, and you want to get trolls off the server, or at least mitigate them to where they're neutralized, right?
No, not necessarily. I just don't want them to troll me or anybody else.
Isn't that what I just said? You want?
Yeah, you did. You did.
What?
I'm just being a punk. So.
Okay.
Hey, good morning.
Morning.
Hey, Koma.
Hey, it's Koma. Hi.
All right, you have the floor. Tell me what you think.
Yeah. We're wanting to do it. We've discussed it ad nauseum, internally, externally, but we're willing to put our best foot forward. And the discussion that we had 2 nights ago, with Dead, Cook, and Tiger was really, really, really helpful. I think understanding the behind the scenes and the context in which this happened, especially the perspective from all of the teams. There seems to be this rumor that there's some sort of conspiracy to unite the clans or something like that. One world order, new world order, something like that. And that's I don't think that plays a part.
I hadn't heard that one.
What is this, WCW? Come on.
It's more
it's a new world order, brother.
There he goes. We were done talking about it. We're willing to see how helpful it will be. We suspect that it will be helpful. At the same time, we didn't want to keep a database or a list or a spreadsheet of who has what and who's doing this, who has whatever ISO territory, because the voting item as it was written was to allow teams with territories to take ISO OPL that they did not have. Well, you got teams moving, so one team might have it this month, today, tomorrow, and then you have that exchange taking place. It'd be just too much extra work. So what we did, we agreed to not take ISO OPL from anyone across the board, from any teams, and that we feel would be the simplest form. Even though other teams didn't agree to that component specifically, our expectation is if we're not taking it, then we don't want other teams to take ours. We'll still defend our territories because we're not currently participating in the ISO share. Some teams are, but we're, every time we get a PM, we got one actually like 20 minutes ago. Hey, we heard you're part of the new ISO agreement in TC. Do you guys mind if we take ISO 3? And I said, hey, thanks for appreciate the interest. We agreed to explain to them what happened. At this time, we're not currently participating. and then I just sent them to Nona.
Yeah.
Because it's not like a Richard move, but just to say, hey, they're doing this actively on Fridays. Make sure you PM. But I thank them for like the message and just keeping the lines of communication open. But yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what was your conversion moment? Handy said you went from I'm totally against it, and now I've accepted Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, and Allah as His messenger. How did that happen?
Yeah. So the biggest part for me personally was understanding the perspective of the different TC alliances. For some reason, when I went into it, it was my understanding that everyone was completely on board with it, and to hear the hesitation that some teams still had, even voting for it, was really enlightening.
Oh yeah, a lot of people. You're right. A lot of people were not sure that it was worth it.
Right. And so that was very helpful in making in discussing that. I mean, we were on multiple voice chats for hours. I think the one with Cook and Tiger, it was probably like 2.5 hours after Cook got done with work. He showed us his exceptional inventory of alcohol that he had at his house, at his store, at the restaurant that he works at. It was just it led to a better sense of community, which ultimately I think is the purpose of doing things like this, is to be able to have everyone stay playing.
He bribed you with alcohol to accept this? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
No,
I guess that makes sense.
At the heart of it, really, truly, Tech, it's just showing each other a little respect and some restraint, and just trying to keep the server healthy and not piss everybody off. Because the fact is I'd say it's a good 50-50. Some people don't care, but the rest do. And it's just incredibly annoying when you get hit 20 times in a day for ISO. You just put a ship on it. 2 seconds later, it gets hit. And it's just unnecessary for these teams that are able to mine it very easily. Now, I do totally agree that it's not the fastest option for everybody to mine ISO. For some players, it is definitely probably faster to just go OPL hunt, but not by that much, And the amount of anger and issues it can cause for an alliance by letting a couple players go out and go hog wild, and then it becomes this pissing war of, I got something to prove. Well, I got something to prove too. Well, I can prove mine better. Well, no, I can go beat people up even more than you can. It's like, okay, great, but at the end of the day, you're literally starting a war over some silly nonsense, and people just can't help themselves. Even us, we just couldn't help ourselves. So, it's easier to make it a no hit, and not easier, but I think advantageous for everybody to make it no hit. If you can mine it, and leave it at that. And I really think it'll be a positive thing for the server.
All right, so Koma's come to Jesus a la SpongeBob moment was Cook showing him some alcohol. I guess that's all it takes.
His alcohol collection is quite impressive.
Well, he does work at a restaurant, or he owns his own restaurant. So I would imagine that the alcohol collection.
I think he's been swiping the good bottles for years.
Red Eye, what's going on, man? How you doing this morning?
Oh, hey, pretty good. Headed to work.
All right, so everybody here was saying how you were the catalyst for this Genesis, if you will. No. You are the Genesis planet. or at least you had the best points that made you the Genesis planet. You have the floor. What happened? How did it come about?
Well, I don't know exactly how it started, but I mean, Andy mentioned people getting hit in OPO, 20 sometimes. I'm not aware that I have any guys that do that. If I do,
Not to my knowledge. I haven't heard
I mean,
a whole lot of complaints, but I do know that Dark and Die are at each other's throats over it.
yeah, I've got some guys that hit OPL, but I mean, we get rated too, right? So what's the difference?
Yeah, it's a little different, and you know this because we've talked about it. But everybody's got that shield button.
Yeah, correct.
But then there's like certain situations like you had today, or this morning, or last night, or whenever it was, where you've got a player that has an account problem and Scopely, in its fuckery,
Yeah, I
has
mean, I could send
basically
you a
made it to where
screenshot
he can't log in, and now Dark's raiding him, and you guys can't stop him, and Dark won't let up, which is kind of not cool. I mean, really, truly, Dark should have just, once they got that, message, and usually they do. If they get a message like, hey, this guy is in the hospital or whatever, or he just died, or who knows, but usually they just back off, because it's not worth it. But I think it interesting and kind of strange that they decided to keep trying to take the OPL.
Well, usually
Or
they
the
would have.
raid.
They would have. Past tense.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I really don't know what's going on internally or between your two alliances. Not really. Just I've heard a couple little things here and there, so maybe you can enlighten us.
Well, I mean, on the dark side, I don't really know what's going on either. The only one I've talked to is Darius.
Yeah, I don't know what this incident is either. If there's someone that's sick and I didn't know, and there was special considerations,
No,
someone
I don't
should
think it was
tell
sick.
me. But
I don't think it was
whatever,
sick.
whatever,
It was just an
whatever the
example.
whatever the
It's the
situation.
scope lady.
Yeah, okay, but whatever it is, man. That's not a thing I was aware of. But that said, there's this predates this issue, and it can. I mean, we'll resolve this offline if we want to talk about it after this. But Dark's gonna need to talk it through.
Oh yeah, I assume so.
So here's how my morning went. I woke up, found a screenshot of multipass getting hit by Mr. Boj on OPL ISO. I look in territory and there's like, I don't know, I think Chemo's there, 15 or so ships, Bold's raiding another guy, so I don't know, it's just kind of a cluster.
That's not the first morning this has happened, though. I assume.
Right, but how do I know how it started? I mean, all I've got is a screenshot of one of my guys getting hit OPL. I don't have any PMs or anything.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm not trying to. We can't work this out on the air anyway. But we can talk about this after this, of course. But specifically, I don't know if it was one incident either. It's hard to know. This is where the problem of not agreeing to not hit each other comes back to this eye for an eye till everyone's blind thing.
I made an agreement last night with an alliance. All they had to do was ask.
Yeah, I know you make agreements, man. I'm definitely not trying to say you wouldn't. You're not disagreeable at all.
No,
it's more a question of like finding a way forward.
I have an issue with the methods, I guess, used. Obviously, I'm not unreasonable, right?
Uh,
I can be, but not about stuff like this. I don't.
No,
think.
not you. Him.
Oh yeah.
He's saying he's not unreasonable.
Well, let's kick it on down the road a little bit. Let's because I think what Darius is trying to say is he'd rather have this conversation where there's not like prying ears and people putting in their 2 cents.
A lot of my guys retaliate by getting OPO.
Right, which
Seems-
if you can mine it, there's really no point to hit it. Now there's
Okay,
got to
so
be other ways your alliance can fight back. I mean, hitting ISO
Sure.
OPL just because you know they don't want you to is just kind of trolling them. I mean, rating is one of those things that's just accepted because it's and here's the distinction. It's been a heavy part of this game since day one, since the moment it was released. Rating has always been a thing. It has always been a cornerstone of how this game works, right? We can all agree on that.
sure.
And because of that, it is just accepted, essentially. It's part of the game, shield or share. It's just kind of what it is, and we all know that and have agreed to it, right?
Yeah. But,
And Darius says so has OPL. Unfortunately, so has OPL.
Yes, you're right. In its simplified form, sure. But every time they release something new, so bases have really never changed except for the fact that they've made them a much harder to raid. So if anything, raiding has become much more difficult than it used to be. Whereas now all of a sudden hunting ISO has become the opposite. Ridiculously easy when it comes to ISO. So it's no longer a challenge to go hunt for OPL. It's just
Well, let me ask
into
you
any
this.
system and just go troll the hell out of people because
Let me ask you this.
there's
then.
no
Handy.
defending it. There's no defending OPL unless you park an entire alliance in a system and sit there and guard your stuff. There's just no defense against it. Whereas with raiding, there's many defenses. There's the base is extremely hard to get into. There is the fact that you have people all around watching your base. The fact that you have shields where nobody can touch you. Like there's just none of that for people mining ISO.
Do you know how you protect yourself mining ISO? You hit the recall button. It's existed since the beginning of the game. You don't need to get hit OPL if you don't fucking mine it. If you don't, all right, look.
Right. There is no way to mine ISO unless you're doing it super slow, which is not feasible for somebody at my level. There is I won't be able to do anything if I use a regular ship.
What is considered bigger trolling? Somebody hitting your ISO miner for like 20K every 2 seconds, or you getting rated for 16 billion. What's the bigger troll?
ISO.
Are you kidding me? You lose 16 billion. You can repair your miner and send it back out.
That is my goddamn fault for not shielding and having a weak base.
So it's your goddamn fault for leaving your miner out. I'm sorry.
No.
It's the same thing. Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Hey, let me.
In an oversimplification, I agree with you. Yes, it is kind of the same thing. However, it's unnecessary for teams that are able to mine it. They can get it just as fast. So there's just no reason for it.
And there's no reason to raid bases because you buy a pack and you get more than anybody else. So
here's the deal.
The people that buy packs typically don't raid.
Look,
the only
exception. Are you kidding?
Are you kidding? No.
Go look at Africanus.
No.
Go look at Bulldog. Go look at those guys.
And they don't really buy a lot of packs.
Go look at Torque. You're telling me those people don't raid, even though they buy a shitload of packs.
I'm sure they do. There's 3 people. Okay, great. But 99% of people don't.
Look,
so make it a rule then. No raiding bases. No hitting ISO. No raiding bases. We're done. We're back to Farmville. I don't get it.
One thing is, there's 2 separate issues here. So
you can't compare the two.
There's 2 separate issues here. One of them has to do with someone who's allegedly. I say allegedly. Obviously, I haven't seen any screenshots, right? So I'm not saying anybody's a liar. But like somebody who's having an issue getting back into the account. This has been brought to the attention of the people that are rating this person, and they're refusing to stop. That in and of itself, there's no way. Here's the thing: if somebody sends you a screenshot, that right there to me is one of those proof beyond a reasonable doubt things. The guy sends you a screenshot, he can't log in. You got everybody saying he can't log in. If the person is communicating screenshots to you and they're not shielding up, that is evidence in and of itself that they can't log in. Why would they go into Discord, but they don't log into the game? So that should be evidence enough right there. If you continue to raid them, you're being an asshole. That's period, point blank, end of discussion. There is no disputing that fact. There's not. The only defense that someone could have is that, so many people have lied before. Say, oh, my team member, they got their butts falling off or whatever. They come up with excuses, but then 5 seconds later you see the person shield up. You know what I mean? But we know that's not the case. So in this case, you have someone who's intentionally being a bully. That's a bully move. Period. Point blank. In discussion. There is no disputing it. If you disagree with it, then that's part of the problem. All right. So anyway, done with that. Moving on. The other one you have is just a separate. It has to do with the difference in the play style. Okay. For me, I will say that I pretty much disagree with everything that's Handy saying. In that, and I disagree with most of what Tech is, and I agree with most of what Tech is saying because. Even before we had the ISO stuff, my isogen miner never got hit. Why? Because I would sit there in the morning with a cup of coffee with my iPad open next to me, and I'd just be sitting there watching my kid play or do whatever, and I would just keep an eye on it and keep looking over every now and then, recall it once I got to about 100,000 or whatever, and then I would just keep doing that. The problem is that you have people that don't want to have to do that, okay? And it comes from a point of laziness, and it's not necessarily negative laziness. It's a point that I don't want to have to deal with that, and nobody wants to. For me, I have a convenient way to do it. I have time that I can do that. Other people don't have time that they can do that, yet they still want to achieve the highest amount of refines every day possible. So what you have is just the conflicting play styles. I can say that if Tech or anybody else were in Handy's shoes, they would absolutely agree with him, right? It just comes from how your view of things that are going on is the lenses that you wear. Not everybody has the same prescription, right? So you're going to see things differently. And no one person is necessarily right or wrong, but I do agree with what Handy is trying to do. I don't agree with the rules necessarily, but I agree with what he's trying to do. He's trying to find a place where everybody can meet in the middle, because you have people that are extreme to one side. If you go OPL by one, I don't care if you got a G4 miner that costs you, 100 million tritanium to repair or whatever it is. I'm going to hit you and I'm going to take it. And then you have people on the opposite end of the scale who go for all-out war when they're hit OPL for 300,000 or 400,000. So we're trying to find a good middle ground.
Well,
so that's all I'm going to say. People trying to hold on a minute. Hold on. Everybody's trying to conflate the issues, and you can't do that. That's like two 5-year-olds arguing. Like, hey, you stepped on my sandcastle. Oh yeah, well 3 days ago you ate my last piece of bubble gum. Like, we can keep doing this all day long and going tit for tat, but at some point people are going to have to agree. Hey, this is dick move, and hey, I don't agree with this, but I see why you're doing it, but I still think it's silly. So anyway, there's my piece. Sorry, I'm going back to washing my trucks now.
That's why we agreed. We were done. This is Koma. We were done arguing it. Everyone was right and everyone was wrong at the same time, and ultimately compromise is what's needed.
I agree with you. I mean, even the arguments I'm arguing, I don't believe that I'm 100% right. Of course not. I mean, I understand that what's true for me is not true for everybody. But I do believe that the agreement, like you said, it's overall, it'll save a lot of issues.
Darius, what do you mean by when you say fatigue and not laziness, or less laziness and more fatigue?
So what I mean by that is I'm trying to cut a line around what Handy's saying and what Kirk is saying here. So I personally don't experience this, but I understand. I get it at 50 plus. And when you're dealing with, 1 million plus isogen for, various researchers and all that, which is a privileged problem in a way. But, I don't want to talk about that stuff. I want to talk about it's fatigue. It's not laziness. I'm not being lazy when I don't want to deal with my miner. I'm just tired of it. In 3 years, I've been playing this game since November. I've been playing as long as Ripper has. This game is a lot of the same shit. And there's a lot of the same things that have gone on for long enough that there's a real, honest to God, almost PTSD from folks who've been hit when they were all my 2-star. Oh, remember when 3-star nodes used to disappear? I don't give a shit what used to happen. I'm interested in what happens now. You know? Yeah, there's some interesting historical context there, but here's the deal. When you've had a thing happen for a long time and you've built up a lot of little bruised pixels in your, fancy phone device pocket, and because we invest whatever we invest, whether it's time, which is worth more than money, whether it's money that some of us have converted it from time into money, it's all a thing that we do, whatever we put into the game, right? So it's like Kirk was saying and what Handy is saying. There's no real middle ground. I get what Koma's saying, and I'm glad to hear Bold's journey on this, honestly, because I was a little on the fence about what that meant, because Dark had tried to work with Bold on this, and it came out to a no, which was okay. I mean, we weren't mad about nothing, but I like hearing that journey that Koma and their team went through, because it's important to acknowledge that, you know what, in the end, I'm not speaking of Dark here, in the end, my journey will be, I'm tired of dealing with these certain things and I don't want to put up with them anymore. Whatever that might mean. Maybe it's a change of a page, do my own thing for a while, or do something else. I don't know what that would look like, right? But what I don't want to have to deal with every day is active mining my isogen if I need to do that in a massive quantity, because it's fatigue. It can be seen as lazy, but I think there is a difference between laziness, which is sort of a willful disregard, and fatigue, which is sort of an exhausted disregard.
Very eloquent.
And the benefit to the lower alliances and lower players is that if they eventually do reach that level where the demand is so high, they'll have that avenue available. They won't have to go out and fight for it. Fight for that room to breathe when they finally reach it.
I mean, don't we have enough crap we have to do in this game to stay up, to stay competitive, to, there's just so much junk you got to do in this game.
I mean, this game is more complicated than I think mostly anyone understands. And I'm not just talking about the social aspect or the mechanical aspect. It's everything, everything in the game. And that, again, coupled with the Star Trek hook in our psyches that we grew up with, whatever our favorite show was, whatever the thing was that made us tap that ad in the Play Store or on the Apple Store, or maybe just that thing that got us into it from a friend, whatever it is. There's reasons why we spent a pandemic's worth of time in the longest year ever to spend time on this game and get invested in it. And now we're here. A lot of us are still sticking around. Some of us are leaving. No small number, however, are leaving, honestly. But as we consolidate who's left, these people who are still left have gone through the journey that they've gone through. The things that they're going to love about the game might change over time. The things they're going to be tired of might also be different, but they're probably going to be similar. I don't love getting raided. Unlike every other high-level player in the game, I don't pretend that I've never been raided. And there's no love lost there, but there's no resentment made either if you realize there's plenty of ways to resist it. Lots of shields, lots of defenses, all the other things you can do. I guarantee you a 37 can stop a 50 in their station. If you want to know how, ask me offline. But here's the thing. This game is as much as it means to anyone, to everyone, if that makes sense. I have whatever I'm invested in the game. You have whatever you're invested in the game. Third person you, right? However much time you want to spend, you can spend it in many ways. If that means you can make a social agreement, like what we've tried to do, collective we tried to do here, great. If that affects how you feel about the game, or if suddenly it's Farmville again, because let me tell you, you're not ripening strawberries out here on Facebook. It's a big difference. And this isn't a Farmville concept. If someone wants to say, hey, everyone, do we all mostly agree we can get together and kind of not have this one thing where we have to ripen our fucking strawberries to get super annoyed at all the time. Let's just make that a little easier. That's okay. It ain't mad. It ain't nothing to be mad or bad about. If you are mad about it, that's okay. But there can also be fatigue with all these social agreements and dealing with the parliamentary horse shit that we have to deal with when we're all trying to deal with each other. But those things help us get things done, so that it's not 50 one-to-one agreements, small group to small group. It's not the best thing in the universe. Fake or real, pixels are real. It's just the only thing that we have when we're trying to make things easier.
Well said.
I was just being rated while we were recording.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I was being rated for 30 minutes.
I'll
Maybe
write
you
Star
should
Trek
have
3
popped the
command.
shield.
I did pop a shield, but I blew it up because I had to kill someone for something. I don't know why.
Oh.
Whatever. I'm not, like I said, I don't really care. I mean, I got like one leg out of the game anyway because it's just to Darius's fatigue points. It's like, it's not even worth playing anymore. It's just so.
For you.
For me, yeah, absolutely. Because I didn't invest that much money into the game. Therefore, for me, it's not that big a deal.
There's a lot of people that haven't invested money, but they've invested a lot of time, just as you have.
Correct.
And people have an attachment to that time and those personal connections to the game.
Yes, they do. And it's I take it. I look at things kind of from like a lawsuit perspective, since I've had so many now in the past. It's like you can drag on a lawsuit for 3, 4, 5 years, and then eventually just let it go. And you've spent how much? And you spent how much money on that lawsuit? 300,000, 400,000. People just let it go. And same thing with my time investment. I've spent a lot of time in this game, and the gameplay and the benefits are not at all rewarding. And I'll give you a reason why it was so frustrating when I was still at Dark. Was there was a time where I had like a 3 to 4 month period of I was active like 8 hours a day, just grinding stuff, getting stuff done, and it was such a hellacious amount of time that I spent trying to do just one little thing to know that I just bought a pack recently, to know that my 3 to 4 months that I was active really every day was negated by one single pack that I bought. And that kind of came to the realization of like, okay, I've been trying to measure my activity against the middle to the top guys in my alliance, or my former alliance anyway. And I just realized that even though I may have been as active or more active than some of those guys have been, the power gap was widening by a ridiculous margin. Like it's just not even funny. And so it just became a realization after now that I'm gone from that alliance. It's like there is no tether anymore. It's like either A, you spend a fuckload more money to try and keep up, or at some point you just cut your losses and say, there's nothing else for me to do in this game. I don't care about going to dark space. I don't care about this G4 mining stuff. I do not care anymore. Because the grind versus the spend is such a stupid ratio. And so why the hell did I spend 3-4 months grinding when I could have bought a pack for $100 and I would have gone further ahead with that $100? It makes no sense. Why does anybody play the game? Why did you just spend money? I guess that's how stupid we designed it.
Well, a lot of people come to that realization and then just spend money.
There are a lot of people that do that, but then here's the thing: if you're playing the game to constantly keep up with the Joneses, then you're playing the game for the wrong reason, in my opinion. I'm sorry, and the opinion of a lot of others. I mean, if you look at
That's
me,
very true.
Take me for example. I made a power jump very quickly, during the pandemic because, obviously we're all at home, nobody was spending any money, and I had the expendable income for sure. And I'll tell you, I still have the expendable income, but I just finally realized that for every pack you spend, somebody else is spending $1,000 a day, and I'm not here to judge them. I can't fathom my wife staying married to me, knowing that I did that. I would do that. But again, some people have, their situations are different. I came to the realization that you could spend all you want to. You're never gonna catch up, and you're gonna get that thing you want eventually. So if you just have patience, you'll get it. It doesn't really matter. You're eventually gonna catch up. The thing is that if you're playing the game to try to keep up, you're not gonna enjoy it. If you are playing the game to enjoy it, and I'm excited to get that new ship and all that stuff. I mean, look, the first ship that I didn't spend any money on to get was the D4, right? And so I got the D4 strictly free to play, and I will tell you, the satisfaction that I got from getting that without spending any money and just knowing that it was just a lot of work, a lot of time, and sacrificing time to put into the game to get it, it was super awesome, and it felt really great. So I've switched more to a free-to-play style, and for that reason. And that's the thing you have to ask yourself. If you're constantly trying to keep up with people, this isn't the game for you unless you're an attorney at a major law firm, or you're a doctor, or a fucking rocket doctor or something. This isn't going to be the game for you. You're not going to be able to keep up. But if you can understand that you're not going to be in the front of that pack, and just like in real life, live within your means, then you can be perfectly content with what you have. Stop comparing everything to the rest of the people in the game, and you're just going to be a lot better off. So it's just different thought processes.
Well, it wasn't a comparison, more or less. It was that I'm trying to grow, trying to contribute, trying to help the alliance, but I just couldn't. I just could not. There was no physical way of me doing that outside of spending any money. That's the realization that I came to, is that I couldn't be. Again, it's a top 5 alliance. You can't be a help to a top 5 alliance being a free to play player. It's just very, very impossible unless you're on the game 12 to 16 hours a day.
Well, I would argue that point, and you can ask Handy this. I am, in the past 4 or 5 months, I'll give you a number. I've spent $180 to $200 because for my birthday, I bought one big pack just because it's my birthday. Why not? And then every other month, it's just $20 for the battle pass. And if I bet if you're to ask Handy, who also keeps up with this stuff, I contribute. Just the past couple weeks I've been here, I definitely pull my weight. I do the events, and I don't spend more than maybe an hour and a half actively on the game. Maybe at 2 hours at most.
But you're also one of the top 150 players in the game who made a huge power jump at one point.
That is true, but the fact of the matter is,
you're not a low-level dude in a top-tier alliance, is what I'm trying to tell you.
Even when I was in most, and I was in the 20s, I was still placing tops of the freaking leaderboards because I was devoting time. Yeah, I spent a little bit more time there, but it is possible, is what I'm saying. You don't have to spend that much on the game if you're goal-oriented and driven to do okay, I'm going to do this one thing, and then you have everything kind of a system. And yeah, it is a time investment, right? And the fact that you can spend $100 and negate someone's couple months of progress on strictly free to play, that's a huge point. But again, it boils down to, what are you getting out of it? And again, we circle back to what I said earlier. Everybody's going to look at it through a different lens. You'll have people like, I'm not going to mention any names because I don't want to put their personal business, but you have people who might be medically retired. You have people that are, retired or older, and maybe they lost a loved one, and this is what kind of grounds them, and it's worth it to them. Or you may have the people that they enjoy the game, but they also have a shit ton of expendable income because, they're the hitmen for the mafia. And so instead of spending 5 hours a day on the game, they spend an hour a day on the game, but drop a couple $100 a day, or whatever the case may be.
As a mafia hitman, I concur. This is Koma.
You liar.
Well, the thing is what really kills me is some of the really large players. And I'm not, I know Tech says I'm a higher level. I don't consider myself that. But when you start talking about the big players, your top 50 or whatever, here's the deal, people. We know how much you spend. Everybody that's been playing this game, even if you're free to play, what the market looks like. You know how much this resource costs. You know how much that resource costs. And so the one thing that I will say is if you're like a top level player and you're level 50 and you go around boasting about how big your ship is and stuff like that, like really all you're saying is the only thing that I'm hearing is that I spent more money than you. And that's what it is. And the same goes for me. I got this 6 point something million ship. Ha 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 ha. All I'm saying is I spent a lot more money than you did to get here.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. To kind of argue against that point, I have a level 24 free-to-play player who is routinely one of the top 5 on all of the Alliance leaderboard events because she just grinds and kicks the hell out of it in her bracket. And that makes her way more valuable than, say, a level 40 who winds up in the bottom 50. You know? It doesn't matter about your level or your strength. It's all about how much energy you put into the grind, into the game. And so I always say, level doesn't matter. Activity matters.
Yeah, in the respect of your own bracket, yeah, I would say activity matters for a lot of things. But if
but I mean, she's kicking ass in her bracket, and meanwhile, there's a whole bunch of us in like the level 39 brackets that are just like another number there.
Yeah, I mean, that does happen, but when you start comparing, that's apples and oranges. For example, that person would probably never, on some of those big leaderboards where everybody's points matter, like Crucible of War and all that stuff, that person can't even probably get to Kronos. Meanwhile, I can kill 20 to 25 transports in Kronos and rack up at 256,000 points a kill. I can rack up more in 30 minutes than that person could do in a whole month.
You're absolutely right. But like in the Rialto event, she was the number 1 points person on the Rialto event.
Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah, you can. But what Tech is saying, it definitely rings true. If there's a leaderboard that pits us against each other, I don't even have to try, and I can beat him, and he can literally spend 24 hours a day on this game for the entire event, and I would still win just occasionally killing something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, depending on what it is. But yes, you're right.
What I'm bringing up is that if you're a low level player in a higher tier alliance, your contribution, regardless of how much you play, you could play 26 hours a day, reference to Bajor, and you still, Handy will kill one ship, and that will negate that level 24 person's entire 26 hours of grinding in the same alliance or against alliances.
That's true in some situations.
I mean, Inko can go up to beta sector and kill one of those Nintendo controller things, and that's enough points more than like 25 alliances. So the point I'm making is, unless, and again, this is from my realization, right? It's not for anybody else's. Is that being a free-to-play player, my level in a top-tier alliance is no matter how active you try to be or how much you want to help, you are an insignificant, or in fact, you hurt the alliance by being at that level. That's my point. So unless you spend money
at the top, yes, you're right.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the case in every game I've ever played, though.
But how many games have you played where the disparity between spending at a certain level versus another level is $100,000?
No, I get that point. That is a valid point. I think we should all we don't all agree with this. There's something wrong with your heads. But in general, I think we can safely say that the scale of spending in this game is like nothing we've ever experienced. The secret voodoo economics of Scopely and the way that they manipulate not just the fractional parts that you get from packs to just give you enough incentive to buy that extra one to finish it, which gives you enough to maybe start another thing. I mean, they are deeply, deeply in the math on this based on our spending behavior, our spending habits, and the way that individual servers down to the player level spend to manipulate things so that players spend more. I don't think that in 5 years from now in a reunion episode, Tech, we're going to be laughing about the class action lawsuit that took Scopely down like Zynga almost went down, right? So I don't think that's a question, right? What I think is the important point, and I hope Tech or sorry, Kirk or anyone else correct me here, but I think what they're trying to say, Tech, and I think what you may hear but not internalize, and we shouldn't, this isn't just about you, I think there are many people that feel the way you do, is that the spirit of what game playing is can still be found in this game without spending the money. And there can still be a lot of fun in a game, fun lowercase f capital F, in this game where you don't have to run with the big dogs to have a good time. Now, that in an alliance, in an individual alliance's dynamics, that could be touchy. It could be a problem for someone or for some other way that these things happen. I don't really know. I think that's why there's many alliances, right? You could have many choices, but there are still ways that 2 hours a day to play the game can still yield pretty good results. And I think for me, certainly that's the numbers. I know more about how this game works than probably 5 people I've talked to ever. And that's interesting to me because I like nuts and bolts. And I don't actually play a lot of the game. I'm not an events guy. I don't look for leaderboards. I don't give 2 fucks about my dailies. I don't get my little magic loyalty token. 1, because it's called a fucking loyalty token, and I hate that. And 2, I just don't really know if I'm going to do the 7 things I need to do to get that stupid widget today. Now, because I'm playing the game socially, or I'm playing the game technically, where I'm trying to deduce what thing A affects to thing B is, that's my particular kink, if you will, for the game, and it makes it fun to me. But that's, for me, everyone, if they can find that thing, though, whatever that is, hopefully it's not a kink, sorry, you can still enjoy a game like this. There are many other games like this, even though this one is, I think, objectively by far the one that has the greatest disparity for pay to win.
All I heard was leather mask and Ninetales. What? Actually, let me ask you this, and I don't want to ask the top guys because the top guys are going to do this. But anybody who's listening, who's like a mid, so like let's say the average level of the server is a 39. So anyone below a 39, like my favorite thing is to just blow ships up. I find that fun, but how many people would enjoy that aspect and blow up their own ships 15 times before they can blow up somebody else's once? How many people find that fun?
Me?
Anybody else?
I think it can be fun when I'm in that mood and I wanna look at the numbers and look at the battle reports and trying different officers, and I see it as a challenge, and I'm personally challenging myself to see how easily I can get in that base.
Yeah, I think for me, if you were to, I think it's all situational, right? Like, what are the risks to reward? Like, if it costs me 2 or 3 ships to their 1 ship that they're trying to do a warp raid, so it's actually doing something, I'm actually preventing them from doing something, then yeah, it's fun. But if it's just for the sake of wasting resources, I'm not on board with that.
No. Like, for example, you're trying to. I'll give a hypothetical scenario. Just a friend of yours is getting raided. Let's just say he's a level 36. A level 50 is raiding him. You're a level 39. He's raiding with his. I don't know. Let's just say he'll start blowing up ships with his Hexta, and you've got a jellyfish. Is it fun to keep blowing up your jellyfish or whatever ship at that Hexta in an effort to try and kill it?
No.
So you don't hit the hag.
That's not fun because you can't win, Tech. The power disparity in this game is the killer, right? The gap in power between 34 epics and 42, whatever they're commons, whatever, like your 42 ships is vast. It's at minimum, it's 100% of your base, values for the three stats, right? And then the 46 ships are literally untouchable by 34 epics. Literally untouchable. You cannot possibly, and and trust me, I know this. You can't win. You can eventually cause them enough in titanium repairs that they might remember your name for 3 minutes. That's about it for the cost. And it's not that I don't mind blowing my stuff up. I know how to do defense against overwhelming power, and that's mostly annoy them until they leave. But that's also not true because they can come in swarms, right? So, yeah, I get your point. I like to blow up ships versus PVE. I'll try PVE stuff a lot more deeply than I will PvP stuff because on the other end of that is some dickbag who spent more money than me that I hate because rar. I'm kidding, but that stuff is challenging in PvE and frustrating in PvP once you've crossed over a threshold. Like you can essentially basically bridge one shipyard jump gap if you press. And at 2 shipyard jump gaps, like my Centurion is never gonna deal with an enterprise that's like T2 or better or any of the rest of them, right? So whatever you kind of loosely holds true. It's a bad comparison if you're going to look at the numbers, but really once you get more than one big shipyard jump apart, especially in the 40s, they don't even speak the same language. There's an immense gap in power there.
Hey guys, quick interruption and different topic back to the ISO agreement. We have a Commodore Omen on the line now. I believe he's listening. He had some really great input on some of that reasoning as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, let's
we've gone off topic.
Let's see. There you go, Omen. Well, at any rate,
You might be having some technical issues.
Omen, we invited you up to the stage, buddy. If you look at the top of your screen, there should be a green accept. If you're looking at the chat, there you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, gotcha.
Awesome.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
What was the topic du jour, and what was it that I had added some helpful?
The ISO mining agreement.
Oh. Okay,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah, just some of that perspective, about why we went with it when we were, such a dissenting voice. I think for me earlier, I mentioned this earlier, but just to bring you up to speed, basically that it was really refreshing to hear a lot of the hesitation that some teams had who were voting in favor. And we still disagree on some of the items, its purpose, but ultimately we were just, let's get it done and get it over so we can get fat and happy and that kind of thing.
well, I mean, there's just so many variables in terms of individual gameplay, individual alliance philosophies, individual culture in the alliances, etc. I think one thing that's always kind of worked against Bold from the outside looking in is a misconception or misunderstanding of how we actually comport ourselves, if you will. The way we do business. We historically have been kind of outside the norm, outside the fray, if you will, on the fringes, kind of keeping to ourselves and minding our own business, which in of itself lends it paints a maybe not necessarily the right picture of bold. And I'm not trying to change anybody's perspective, but I'm just acknowledging that there's certain ideology, because as we have grown bold from being number 15 on the server to number 5, we're now more visible. So our actions on the server could be misconstrued as being overly aggressive or whatever, having this philosophy. We don't wake up in the morning, have a board meeting, and say, "Who are we going to fuck up today?" I mean, that just doesn't happen. We don't have pet parrots and peg legs and stuff like that. I mean, I know there's a huge. I'm assuming based on anecdotal conversations that I've been or things that I have heard about us, and how people think that we are. So because of that, I kind of felt like, okay, it's time to stop really disagreeing with everybody. I still kind of disagree on the ISO, on the OPL thing, period. But I mean, it's to what extent, right? I mean, you beat your head on the wall, so to speak. Eventually, you're going to go ow and stop, because the wall's probably not going to give. Your head's going to give first. So it just we wanted to see, at least I did. I wanted to see how it would look if Bold was to agree and participate with the other top 5 alliances and kind of align in terms of agreeing with the reluctantly agreeing with the taking of any OPL, because we still, well, me specifically still feels that OPL is an integral part of the game, and it should not be restricted, because it is usually more beneficial for the mid to lower level players than there are for the higher level players, like maybe the 40s and on up. But it's still a huge part of the game that's beneficial to their growth and advancement. And I also think that if you try to legislate comportment across the board and try to be fair and equitable, it loses a sense of it loses some of its funness, and in terms of the health of the server, I think it could have a. I know the intent is to make it equitable and healthy, but it could also have the negative effect where you're going to lose other people that really don't care to participate in that type of perceived equitable treatment across the board. But anyway, I know I kind of digress all over the place, but in the gist of my whole thing with the ISO is that let's give it a try, let's see what happens, and we always reserve the right as an autonomous alliance and autonomous individuals and free-thinking individuals to withdraw. So hopefully that doesn't happen. I don't think it's going to happen, but what we're seeing now is these smaller alliances are coming out of the fray and not necessarily agreeing with the agreement that's been made by the essentially the top 5 alliances. And you guys were alluding to a little while ago. I mean, you really can't compete with us in terms of rating and things like that, because if Nona, for example, decides to go into a territory and put 5 or 6 ops level 50 ships on there, there's not much that an alliance that's like number 14 or 15 in power on the server can do anything about. So there is a huge disparity in terms of that. So anyway, I think I'll stop talking now and turn it back over to you guys, because I was kind of all over the place.
I appreciate this perspective, though.
So, again, the perspective was the ISO mining agreement. So you're originally against it, but you're for it because it alleviates a lot of issues across the board. Is that what I'm hearing?
I'm actually kind of apathetic to it. I'm not for it or against it. I'm just willing to give it a try to see what happens. Does that make sense?
Fair enough.
Yeah, because I mean, if I choose not to take any OPL, that's up to me. That's my gameplay, and as I've gotten higher in ops levels, I've actually curtailed a little bit of my OPL taking only to stuff that I actually need, or if I actually need a node cleared. But I don't think I've done that in a good while. I can't remember the last time. Well, yeah, I mean, I actually took some OPL the other day because somebody came in and took mine. So I just went because I was bored. I went and visited their territory and took some back. But it wasn't out of spite per se, but it was more out of boredom. And I was like, okay, let's go play. And it kind of makes it fun. I mean, it kind of gets your blood pumping a little bit, because you can't see into the territory, so you kind of go in there and you kind of look around, and then you might get challenged, you might not, So it's. And we actually ended up talking. I'm not going to mention who it was. We actually ended up talking later on that evening, and everybody was just laughing about it because it was kind of comical the way it happened, unbeknownst to me. Yeah, but anyway, I'll just stop there and let you guys continue talking. Over.
I think, what's the best way to put this? I think for most people, they're going to get a lot more, just to oversimplify, they're going to get a lot more resources by mining, just for the simple fact that they can now set it and forget it to an extent. And they're going to collect a hell of a lot more, because whereas before, with everybody running around taking every bit of OPL they could find, by the couple people that had the time to do that, most people didn't mine, or they would mine a very small percentage of their time in the game when they could actually sit there and watch it. So what that ends up meaning is not a lot of people do that, and we're not getting as many resources out of the game as a whole, as a server. So now with this agreement, it's just a fact that everybody that's in TC is going to be pulling a lot more resources out of the game that goes into player pockets. Whereas before, a lot of people would just not mine it or do smaller refines, et cetera, et cetera.
No, I totally.
So as a whole, everybody will get a lot more out of the game. That's all. And because of how heavily weighed all the new content is towards ISO, I mean, everything is taking ISO now. Everything. All the new stuff. So it's become one of those things. It's like, if you want to progress and stay up, whether you're free to play or not, you need to be able to mine this crap. I wish it wasn't so heavily weighed towards ISO now. I really do. I wish they had just come out with some content that, you could go and engage in that didn't require some, arbitrary specific resource. I wish they had just stuck to the resources we already had in the game. But that's not how they did it. So that's my main driving force to keep it peaceful. So
it's by design. Scopely's always going to be geared, towards making money for themselves. And how do they do that? They do that by creating
conflict,
et cetera. So people want to grow. But I also, I totally get your philosophy. Totally get where you're coming from. And I'm not disagreeing or agreeing with it. I'm just offering a different, perspective, because what you're talking about is having the ability to mine unimpeded in order for everybody to kind of grow across the board. But it's still an imbalance, because the majority of the people that are growing are those top 5, 6, maybe even top 10 alliances, while the other ones are being left out in the cold. And now I get that you guys are offering ISO OPL on Fridays and stuff like that, and that's fine. Bold hasn't bought into that yet. But regardless, if let's just say, for the sake of argument, that everybody in the server was in agreement that your ship has an OPL limit, and we don't expect to come back with anything but what's under that limit. Let's just say everybody was in agreement with that, and the argument was towards that. The rate of growth would be slowed down, absolutely, but it would be slow equitably across the board, and not everybody would grow by leaps and bounds that has the ability to mine all 3 of the isogen levels, 1, 2, and 3.
Most alliances do have access to that, though. I mean, I believe there's like 11 or something, like 12, something like that. 13, I don't know.
Creating this chasm or a chasm, not you. That's the bad way to say it. A chasm is being created between the higher power teams and the lower power teams. It's just growing wider and wider. So there's
I
going to be like
agree.
no middle ground. There's going to be no middle ground. There's no good answer for any of this.
Well,
But
well,
I
I
just ask
think that's
for
why a
clarity.
lot of these alliances are finally getting rid of people that aren't playing at all.
Yeah,
Because let's be honest here, a lot of these alliances have people sitting in them that aren't playing. And the people that aren't currently in territory should be looking at doing a merger and getting players that are not playing at all out of territory, and the people that are playing, get them in.
yeah. There should be challenges weekly
Because
for territories from the outside.
most people, if they really want it, can get into territory one way or another if they're an active player. So I mean, I'll bet if we were to do the math and compare it to the active, actually, I'm going to do that later today, and I'll let you know. But I'll bet if
Okay.
we were to compare the active number of players we have in our server, and we were to compare it to how many potential spots there are in territory, it would be pretty close. You know, you just have the people that choose to stay with an alliance that has 75% of it is non-active and doesn't give a crap and doesn't care to fight for territory.
Yeah.
And you've got people that are stubborn, or they just really like those handful of players that are in their alliance, you know, and they don't want to leave. But that's their choice. You know, they very, very easily could get into one of these alliances that has all three. And really, the people that only have one territory, with like 1 and 2, for example, you know, they're getting what? I think 75% of the, they have access to 75% of the amount of ISO that is possible to get per day, which is pretty
Yeah.
close. And that's just one territory. So that's not that much far behind. I mean, so an alliance with just one territory can get 75% of what I can being in an alliance with 5 territories. So just being in territory at all is critical, obviously, for any alliance that wants to, you know, to compete and to be able to do everything in the game. So
Yeah, because you
and
also have the particles, and you have the mining and
the
PvP buffs.
particles, that's
Well,
true.
yeah,
There
all
are a
those
bunch
things,
of other factors, but the
all
ISO
those things in
specifically,
aggregate make TC desirable to be a part of.
absolutely.
Bull only has 4 territories, so we don't have ISO 1. I mean, that's neither here nor there. I guess what I'm trying to say in a nutshell is that you cannot have the highs that keep players engaged and having fun without the lows or the risk of the lows. So no matter what is done to try to homogenize, or work towards the middle of that, there's always going to be highs and lows. So, and there's always a risk of server health being what it is, and people leaving the server and then us merging with another one. I think somebody that's in game development told me that on average, these type of MMO games last maybe 5 or 6 years, and they kind of run its course. So what's going to happen when everybody's a 46 and above across the game? I don't know. I mean, it'd be kind of be interesting to see that. I mean, my goal is to get to 46. I'm at 44 right now,
Well,
and
it'll end up that they'll release more levels. I mean, we already know they are. There's
yeah,
research
yeah,
I have that says I need to be level 52 to do it. So they're going to
yeah.
be releasing more levels, you know.
But again, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Not everybody's going to be able to attain those levels unless you're able to supplement your grinding, your daily grinding with real life.
That's not necessarily true, and I'll tell you why. Every time Scopely releases content, they make it a heck of a lot easier to level up. So I mean, we're seeing completely free to play people at level 42 and stuff like that. So
It's extremely difficult to get above 40. It can be done. I mean, we have one that's free to play. It's 34. Just got an enterprise. Been playing as long as everybody else, almost 3 years.
Yeah.
And they've
I
got
mean, we've got a free to play that's 40, I think now.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's doable, but I think that's not the norm. I mean, I think
That's the
people that
exception.
people that move up are either cheap to play, meaning they only buy, they have a budget, they spend maybe $100 or $200 a month or whatever, or they have an unlimited, disposable income that they can spend a couple thousand a month. I mean, it varies across the board. And I'm not faulting anybody for what they do in game or what their purchases are. I mean, good on you. If you can afford it.
To each their own.
You need to also look at what they have to sacrifice to maintain that level. People look at ops level like it means something. I mean, there are 41s out there who are nowhere near where I'm at. I'm at like 31 million in power.
That's true.
You look at some of these people that, yeah, you can get to that ops level, but you can't mine as fast as I can. Your ships aren't as powerful, aren't as fast. You don't have as much OPL because you have had to spend everything on leveling up rather than your research. So what he's saying is absolutely correct. Yeah, you can get to that ops level, but look at a lot of these free-to-play players. They have tier 6 like augurs and enterprises that are less than like 3 million because they've had to sacrifice research to push up.
That is true.
So I mean, it's at the end of the day, no, there's always going to be a power disparity. You could be 41 just like me. If you've never spent a cent, I will demolish everything you have, and you cannot convince me otherwise because it's just not true.
That is quite true. Yeah.
You just gotta be a good wiener doctor, and then you gotta be and then you'll be raking in the profits.
Okay, good to know.
I say that as a
wiener
mafia hitman.
Doctor.
Yep, wiener
okay.
doctors.
He's talking about being a urologist.
No, is that what that means?
No, I'm just fucking with you.
Oh, okay.
That's the technical term.
Yeah.
You sound salty, man. Have you gotten the great finger of injustice recently?
Well, that would be a proctologist, not a urologist.
Yes.
He's gearing up for his colonoscopy.
Somebody got
and
fingered.
just for everybody's information, when you go to see the proctologist, if you lean into it, it freaks him out.
I'm gonna have to try that just to fuck with him. Oh, that's gonna be so funny.
I really believe that's the takeaway from the discussion today.
Oh,
lean into it.
Lean into it. That is the takeaway.
Brings us back to the very beginning that it's canon that we are all bad people.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's going to be like the new catchphrase for the server. People are going to be like, man, I just got raided. Hey, man, lean into it.
Lean into it, buddy. Lean into it.
Okay. Lord have mercy. Yeah.
That's good.
This has been another episode of Trek Talk. Jesus, fuck. Where do we find these people?
I don't know.
I don't know. They're on our server. Before you know it, we'll all be that's left. Just like the people in this room and the people listening. Everybody else will leave the game.
Yeah. That's okay. We'll entertain ourselves.
With proctologists and urologists.
What the fuck happened to Cook? Did Cook leave? Nah, man. Yeah, he decided he didn't want to lean into it anymore. He had to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it brings a whole new meaning to the word astronaut.
Yeah. God. That was a bad joke.
Yeah, it is. I'm a dad. I have all kinds of. I'm a granddad. I have all kinds of dad jokes.
Yeah.
Well, what else? What else do we got? What else is
Since I was perusing GC last night.
I got something real quick.
Go ahead.
Dread is we're gonna announce it tomorrow, but Dread is going to be our sister alliance.
Why the fuck am I just hearing this?
Because we haven't
You
announced
kept that
it.
secret pretty good, Handy. I'll give you points for that. You kept that real close.
Did I?
I think so.
Oh, cool. Nobody knew.
What are they going to call themselves? No.
I think they've decided salt.
Noni.
Really?
Salt. I don't know. Just SALT. But I got to confirm that. I liked Lona, low salt.
And ACL.
So you know what that means now, right? For those of you listening who have territories, you know it's only a matter of time. I'm just saying, watch your ass.
What are you talking about?
Lean into it, man.
Just
Lean into it.
Yeah, it'll be
They
fine.
could-
Just lean into it.
They could go with a healthy. They could go with a healthy alternative and maybe use dash.
Maybe they could actually be called NaCl, which is salt, not Na, which is sodium. Unlike
What
a particular alliance we know.
Wait a minute. Hold on a minute. We are missing an opportunity to do something really big here. Why the fuck are they not changing their name to Pepper?
Because Nona isn't even salt. There's no salt in their name.
It could be no pepper.
Well, we've got the spice, right? We've got the bold and the spicy.
That's true. We'll be the salt and pepper for you.
That's what I'm saying. We're about as seasoned as baked chicken, man.
Yeah.
And Cook will rule them all.
Yeah.
This is this is the whitest alliance I've ever been in.
You have no diversity.
Sea salt.
I'll share a story. I'll share a story with everybody. When I was where I live, we used to have a food festival twice a year where all the countries would come out and prepare their dishes and whatnot. And so it happened in one particular area of one of the biggest parks we have. And then if you go to the other side of the park, it's like a continuation. There's a lot of other booths for food and services and all these things, games and whatnot, and a little festival for kids. But there was one booth that was selling caramel, like caramel candies. And I go up to them, and they had two flavors. It was original and organic sea salt. And being a person of science, I couldn't help myself and decided to fuck with them. And I'm just like, okay, hi, please explain to me what you mean by organic sea salt.
Yeah.
And they were not ready for that question because this lady's like, oh, well, it's it's like a Celtic salt that's been approved by the FDA as organic.
Okay.
And I'm just like, okay, how does it make it like? And if you know science, you know where I'm going with this because salt is an inorganic compound. And I'm like, how did you come up to the determination that it's organic? Like that it's organic. And there's a lady in the back, and she was hearing me. She was hearing the frustration and the woman that's trying to explain. So she's like, everything made on the earth is organic. And I'm just like, there we go. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Everything on earth is organic.
Okay.
Oh, God.
How about if they change their name to Lime and then
You can't fix stupid.
I'd still buy it, though.
So what I heard, all I got out of it was that fucking Tech was badgering Babushka.
Yeah.
He's out there fucking.
I don't even think you're not even using that right, but okay.
Babka. I don't know. I don't speak communist, man. You do.
Yeah, that's right. I speak communist.
Good to know.
it was a very hilarious experience. So going back to Nona keeps saying it's not a salty alliance; it's a sodium alliance.
Okay.
Well, fuck, man. We'll just change our fucking name. Handy, go do that shit right now. Tell Inca.
All right, no problem.
Send smoke signals. Let everybody know. Carrier pigeons and shit. Tech Man roasted us, so now we have to change our name.
I'll do that.
There you go.
Well, here's a question for you. What's the big deal about someone keeping their name?
What do you mean?
Well, like Dread and Dead have been brother alliances for a while now, and we kept our names the same because why bother changing it? We know who we are. We know who we're bonded with. Why have to change names and be the whole SDFC or meld thing again? That's why I never really liked the whole idea.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Well, that's why Cook dry hit the fuck out of everybody as a fake SDFC person.
Yeah.
I mean, Dark asked me if I wanted Dead to be a sister alliance with Dark. I said, well, I have no problem being close allies with you guys, but I'm not changing my name to Dark.
Well, Cook, you're kind of like that guy that was the fucking burglar, and then he got his own TV show showing people how not to get burglarized. We still don't quite trust you yet, man.
I think I'm the most trustworthy person on this server.
Oh, really?
Oh, shit! Shots fired.
Yeah. Okay.
Only because I share everything about me with everyone. Everyone knows who I am.
We call that oversharing.
Y'all come onto the back room server, and
I call it selling my book.
Yeah, that too.
You need to leave a little bit to mystery, man. You don't have to tell everybody everything.
No, he goes into it, man.
He goes into it. It's a great read.
He leans into
there
it.
There you go, yes.
Let him lean into
it. Lean into it. And if you go on Cook's server, he talks about everything, including length and girth. Just saying.
Oh, Jesus.
True story.
Alright, I think we've gone off the rails a little bit. It's been about 2 hours. Any final thoughts from anybody?
This game sucks.
This game's awesome.
True point, Kirk. Thank you for making that. This game blows.
Lean into it.
Lean into it. Make sure you suck it hard.
Just think. Never mind. I'm just gonna go.
No.
Thanks for having me on.
I was gonna say, not only do you need to lean into it, but you need to try to suck the finger up there as well.
Yeah.
Keep it classy, San Diego.
There is no filter on this show.
Do you guys know the difference between an oral and a rectal thermometer?
Oh God, here we go.
Nothing.
The taste.
Yes.
Yes.
When whoever it was referencing the damn Anchorman or whatever, the only thing I could think of is every time I hear Handy open his mouth to talk to somebody about an issue, the only thing I can hear of is, I don't know if you know this, but I'm kind of a big deal.
Yeah. No. That's funny.
All right, fuck it, we're done.
On that note,
everybody have a great day.
Apologies to Matt Damon and Server 38. We'll have you guys on next time for all your drama.
Matt Damon? What?
Matt Damon.
What?
Matt Damon.
Mad Damon.
He's going to show us how to suck.
just
Next week, we'll have Coldplay.
God.
They'll teach us how to blow.
Oh, God damn it.
All right, on that note, please like, subscribe, comment. Please comment. This is going to be hilarious. Thank you, everybody.
No, I'll tell you in a minute.
Why wait? Why wait?
No,
Yeah.
I just wanted to mess
There's no
up your
time like the present.
exit. I just want to. No. By all means, go ahead.
All right. Thank you to Red Eye, Darius, Omen, Koma, Cook. Did I miss anybody? It doesn't matter. I'll get you on the show next time. This has been Trek Talk. I'm TechMan16.
This show sucks.
Lean into it.
Awesome. And lean into it, definitely.
Lean into it.
We'll see you guys next time.